everyone, it's a patient hodler coming at you with another live stream, and today I have the first appearance of TapsTrades on my channel. Welcome to the channel, Taps.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to, we've had a few conversations, so I'm excited to be on your channel. So appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for making the time coming here. It's actually a little dream of mine coming true, so I'm happy to have you here. So, crazy day already. How are you doing?
Good, man. I usually start my mornings around like 6:30 or 7. So it's been a grind with work lately. So just trying to get some work in and make some time where I can to either hop on other people's channels or do videos. And it's been a busy couple months.
I can imagine you have a lot on your plate. I think we will talk a little bit about that in a couple of seconds as well. One thing that I have to clarify for the audience, we're not in a cornfield somewhere in Germany, but we, yes, because I usually hide in a cornfield from the wind so that people don't get wind noises. So people got used to that scenario already. But I have to say that we are chatting right now from the US to Germany. So for me, it's afternoon, and for Taps, it's early in the morning, or at least in the morning, I think.
Yeah. I'm wondering, is this I think this is my first conversation from someone who's like in Germany, but if that was an option, if we could have done this live walking through a cornfield in Germany, you should have let me know. That would have been way more fun.
Hey, I mean, we should, if we would do a live stream in Germany, then we should definitely do it from an Oktoberfest tent or something.
That would be a rough stream, buddy.
No, but you're definitely welcome to visit. If you would visit Germany one day, I'm happy to guide you around, and then we are probably doing an outside stream.
I still have my lederhosen from when I went to Oktoberfest 6-7 years ago. And yeah, I mean, absolute blast, had a great time, and definitely want to check out other parts of Germany because I didn't see like most of the country. I just saw mostly Oktoberfest, which doesn't really do it justice, just a really good time.
I think you having seen Oktoberfest is already a huge milestone. And for everyone who doesn't know, lederhosen are actually the leather trousers that you use as traditional wear in Bavaria, in the southern state of Germany. And yeah, so we got a lot of people hopping on here. I might just click them through here. So veveverse, Data veveverse, Metaverse Mango, welcome to the stream. Super Rush, Ryan, Hello K is in the chat as well. I hope if everything works out, I will have him on the channel as well. All Chat Gaming, NFT Savage, Henry. Some of these are definitely here from your channel, so you're nodding. I didn't even know some of these, but others are tuning in from Germany, like veveverse, veveverse, Metal Jake, Cole, Demo. What's going on? Omi the Clown is here. So yeah,
I love it.
I'm stoked. It's almost 40 people here. Smash up the like, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, let's maybe I doubt that anyone that is here doesn't know your channel, but I would actually still have my due diligence here and just say Tap's channel is the first channel I ever saw on Ecomi Veve content. I was not making videos at the time. And now you have already almost 20,000 subscribers. So if someone is not subscribed yet, which I doubt, but if so, then head over and smash the subscribe button there to get all the good live streams and info streams there.
I like seeing it in German.
Oh, yeah. You mean abonniert, like to subscribe?
Yeah, the subscribe or likes. I'm reading it. I'm like, thank you for pronouncing that, because I was like, how do I pronounce this?
Yeah, actually, I thought that the people from the US have a very good pronouncement of most of the German words, probably because the root is a little bit similar. But just to say this to everyone who's watching, now that you have so much on your plate, you're doing mostly drop and live streams, but sometimes also information videos. So you get still all the quality content and information on drops and everything that is going on with Ecomi and Veve also in these live streams. So it's not only Taps hitting a button, but there is a whole pre-drop ritual on these live streams that I also love to tune in and get some extra information, actually, because most of these drops are US related and you have definitely the better insight on those.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And it's, I'm putting in a lot of hours with this job, and more than I thought. I thought I was making a jump to, I switched jobs in October, and I went from a job that I really loved. I was in consulting. I got to have firsthand knowledge on what was happening in a lot of technology, but I wanted to kind of make some more money to keep investing further. So I made this switch thinking oh, it'll probably be similar. No, I'm working way, way more, sometimes 60 hours in 5 days, or, and it's just so taxing that it's been difficult to keep creating the kind of videos that I like to create, which sometimes take a ton of research, a ton of editing, a ton of, put into it. So I'm just wiped at the end of days sometimes where I can't create videos. But doing the live streams, to your point, I like to kind of talk about the markets. I like to talk about other things and get out some of the information I want to talk about. And so I'm trying to kind of refigure, maybe I just do more videos where I'm not putting, as much work in, but I'm still getting content out, because there's so much that happens all the time. And I think it's a miss on my part to not do more videos. So, I've had a few people reach out hey, are you not making content anymore? Or are you not still bullish on Omi? I'm still very much buying Omi. I'm still, buying collectibles. I'm still bullish on both. It's just the time to put in, I just have a lack thereof. And then when I had a month off in between jobs, I loved it, because you'd think I'd go on vacation or something, but instead every single day I was creating content. And I'd like to get to a point in, a couple years or so where I could maybe do YouTube full time. And that's why I'm grinding so hard with this job, is just to put money into investments and propel myself over the next coming years, so that way I could do YouTube full time. So I'll be creating more content hopefully soon, but yeah, those streams kind of help me to reconnect with people and just, drop information that's, broader besides just the drops.
Yeah, I think you're doing an amazing job on these live streams, on the drop streams, also by sharing drop tactics that you are going to apply. So you're not hiding anything, or so you're just getting to the point what your thoughts are before, which mints to look out. So you're sharing completely transparent everything that you feel about these drops. So I think maybe from this thumbnail and title, people are oh, okay, it's a guy that is looking at the drop, but there's way more to it. And I think connecting with the audience in these live streams is always fun to watch, at least for me. So I'm still at work when you are live streaming most of the drops, usually, if it's not weekend, but I still try to have a little tab open to sometimes just look what your feeling is about a specific drop. So yeah, I can just recommend it for the tactics, for the content, and ultimately for seeing if you get something good or not.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And, I usually only try to stream drops where I feel like they're a quality drop, right? Because a lot of the comics and things like that, they'll drop. And then in the secondary market, if you're just trying to collect one of everything, I try to get one of every comic, then I just go on the secondary market afterwards and buy a comic that's at $2 instead of paying the $7, which, it's difference of $5, but it adds up over time, right? So if you're looking to, catch every single drop stream, then I think Johnny Dunn and Veve are the ones who stream every single drop. So, the ones I don't, I'd recommend their channels for, at least if you just want to do every single drop, because it is more fun to do drops. You get into it, you get a little bit of the backstory of the drop, and it's just more fun to do it as a community versus, just sitting on your phone waiting till you go, okay, boom, if you have the time.
Yeah, I can totally relate to everything you said also about the job. I mean, I think we both have jobs that require our not full attention the whole day, but they drain a lot of us, I think. I mean, you said you do consulting, or you do a consulting job. I don't know, you have probably a double consulting job now, or at least I'm getting into the Caloscope side of things later. But yeah, I mean, me too. I'm leading a little department, let's say, and that also requires a lot and try to fit in the videos, as you said. So I think a lot of people that consume content but don't produce content, they cannot relate to how much work it actually is to get that all out. And even preparing a live stream like this is just not done by hitting a live button. I meant not this one. This is also not done by hitting the go live button, but yours, the drop streams. You still need to prepare stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a labor of love for sure. You know, it's like I watch some of these channels which are, you know, like they're huge, and like sometimes they'll share the information about, you know, what they make from YouTube and all that. And I can tell you it's a labor of love, right? When you put, you know, 6-8 hours into a video, you could maybe on that video make, you know, $20-30. So like you're working well below minimum wage to create the videos. But like that's how I look at YouTube, is it's an outlet for me. It's a community thing, right? It's not so much how much you make from it, it's the connections that you make, it's the people that you're interacting with. You know, I work from home, and so I probably talk with more Veve fam than my own friends every single day. And like that's something for me, and it's something to give back to, right? So I appreciate everyone who watches, and I appreciate you having me on your channel too, because, you know, we've been in conversations, and you and I have hopped on a call and spoken, and I love your content. I think the way that you think and the way you put it into content is really smart. And then I think, you know, everyone who does follow you, if you don't, make sure you follow Patient Hodler, because it's really solid content, and I'm a fan of your channel.
Thank you, man, for the kind words. And yeah, maybe we get a little bit later into why and how and YouTube journey a little bit more. But also we want to talk about Veve and Ecomi, obviously, which is the the big passion and the reason why we all here in the space, or one of the reasons at least. But you have I followed a lot of your live streams with your guests, and you have had a ritual that I learned from you, and that is it's called lightning round, lightning questions. So just to get them, I don't know if you are the only one who does them with the others, or if you already got some from someone else that brought you on the channel, or would that be the first time?
I think yeah, you're flipping it on me. I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I just thought I didn't want to copy lightning questions or so with other guests yet, but I think I wanted to flip them on you. So I have prepared like 2 to 3 questions here. So, and let's see if you can answer them quickly as well. I've not given them to you before. So yeah.
I'm ready.
Good. Let's start. Ready?
Let's go.
Okay. Omi or NFTs?
Omi.
Comics or collectibles?
Personally, collectibles.
Okay. Favorite series that you're hooked right now? Like TV series or that you watch?
Oh man, The Boys.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Not seen the collectibles for those yet.
They're on Terra Virtual Collect, which is a competitor Veve. They have The Boys license.
Okay, they couldn't get the real Marvel, so. What brand needs to come to Veve?
Oh man.
Besides Pokemon, we don't want to hear Pokemon.
What brand needs to? I mean, yeah, that's the one, of course, that is like the first to mind. So I'm trying to think of something different. I think just any. I would say just a large, like the anime vertical is one I'm very passionate about. So I'd say like a large brand, like that could bring anime in, whether it's, I think Dragon Ball Z would be massive. You know I'm a big fan of like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto, but I think DBZ would be huge effect and like new users. And so I'd say Dragon Ball Z.
And for you personally, would be also Dragon Ball Z in the anime vertical, or?
Personally, I mean, yes, but I'd also say, you know, like anything from Square Enix, like Final Fantasy would be amazing. I have Sephiroth collectible back behind me among all my collectibles. So You know, I'm a gamer growing up, and so if Final Fantasy VII came, and I could have Sephiroth chilling in my showroom or play with him in augmented reality, I would be stoked.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I agree on the anime. One thing that I really would love for childhood dreams would be One Piece.
Yeah, and I've talked about Viz Media, which is one of the largest anime, companies or brands. They have tons and tons of different anime shows, and then they also have tons and tons of manga as well. So we have, digital comics, and I've asked them before in an AMA is like, hey, so what's the possibility of digital mangas? And they didn't quite answer me on if it's a straight yes or a no. So I'm hopeful that one day we'll get some form of digital manga, which there is a market for. So,
but in terms of collectibles, you could also see that, like the figurines, I don't know, maybe even the dragon fruits or stuff like that to interact with.
I'd be. There's just so much that can come with the anime vertical, but they've also said it's some of the hardest licensing to secure and work with. And I mean, David, you, Dan, both are huge anime nerds like myself, so they want it as well. So I think they were talking about how it's going to be a vertical, and so when that does come, when they're really targeting, a larger audience, and like what that'll have an effect with like APAC and other areas, it'll bring a huge amount of new users. And I think what we're waiting for is localization, right? The ability to translate in other languages, because it just makes sense with that vertical to broaden out the app into multiple languages. And it's more than just, one language, but that's what I think is what they're waiting for.
Yeah, localization is definitely a very big catalyst just to get everyone on board that doesn't speak English. And most people in Europe, in the US, maybe not believing it, but there are billions of people that are actually not capable of understanding English, and where we don't have localization. So I think also the whole thing is very, very big. Now I will try to handle some questions from the chat here in as well on the side. But speaking of that, I mean, sticking to the topic, localization has not been coming, although they announced that this year would be the focus to expand into APAC. And we have seen 2 drops, I think, regarding this, and then it more or less stopped in that sense. Do you see any reason, or why do you think did they stop this rollout in that sense?
Well, I mean, for one, it seems like, I mean, they understand that, there's been a lot of missed timelines. And so it's become full, as much resources as possible, it seems, on getting KYC, MTL cash out. And now I think we're probably right around, I would guess, over 1/3 to maybe almost half of users who can now cash out. So I think that's been primarily the focus, right? Because we're still waiting on the OUP article. We're still waiting on we're still waiting on exchanges, like tons of things. So it seems like everything priority wise has been put into this. And then after this is done, which, we're not far away till everyone has full access. I keep seeing more and more on Twitter, like, boom, I gained access. I can KYC, I can cash out. And so I think once that's done, it's all focused on all the other items, right? On OMI, on OUP, on hopefully localization in the next quarter. But I think that's probably why, right? So they're coming out with more content that I think makes sense for San Diego Comic-Con. They're doing comics every week, but that's why I think there's other verticals and other catalysts have taken a back seat, because they needed this to happen. They needed to get everyone KYC. They needed to deliver on cash out. And then once that's done, all these other catalysts now are realistic in the timeline over the next year.
Yeah. I see every time I make my analysis, I always ask myself, why is there nothing about Veve, about the collectibles? Even if there are articles about it, the name does not appear. It's like if someone is working hard in the background to keep it undercover. I mean, it really seems like it. And my question is, would it even be disadvantages for them if if they would bring whatever marketing besides the marketing to specific collectors groups, like the movie tickets that we have seen right now that came with a certain utility to redeem the collectibles. But I cannot really grasp, is it the cash side of paying extra fees in the App Store, or is it a stability side, or is it a scaling issue? What really makes them hold everything back? Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, we're now in a bear market, right? So when something does deliver, it creates, a market effect, and things will go up, whether it's collectibles or Omi. But at the same time, we're still in a bear market, right? So they'll inevitably still track back down at some point, unless they're able to go consistently, like big catalysts, 1 week, big catalyst in another 2 weeks, and like stack it up that way. So the way I think about it is I would have kind of a similar approach, right? Like if I worked for Veve or had a company like Veve, I would try to look at, okay, how can I stack up as many catalysts over the next, 6 months to either help investors or continue to gain traction in a bear market where everything's down and continuing down, or at least kind of floating. It's the projects that stand out during that time that are going to do well despite that, right? So that's why I think they've been waiting. And it's also like, okay, like they could have probably come out with an OUP article a month ago, is my guess. But it seems like they're waiting, right? San Diego Comic-Con is coming up end of this month. And then it's just kind of like, okay, what's next, right? Like that's our attitude as Veve fam is, right? We're like, okay, what's next? We want more. Like, what are you doing now? And so I think them putting all that on the back seat to then probably come after that point, also because there's going to be a bunch of new users that onboard during that time, right? And they're going to be like, what the heck is Omi? What does it do? Which right now it doesn't do a whole lot, right? So I think that's probably why it's taken a back seat, because they can use that momentum afterwards to be like, oh, here's the new OUP article, right? Here's what staking Omi can do. Here's what Omi will have an effect coming in the app over however many months until we get actual utility. And so that's kind of why I think they're doing it, right? And I know Reese, either it was a tweet or in the Discord or something like that, he said something about how they were holding off on exchanges because they wanted to, and I'm probably misquoting, but something around like, using that momentum or something like that. So, right now, the fact that Omi is holding up pretty well compared to other crypto is
extremely well. Yeah.
It's pretty, I want to say surprising, because it's a utility token that doesn't have much utility at all, right? And yet we have such a strong community. And so I think the fact that it's on 5, 6 exchanges, and you compare it to most other crypto that is in the stack ranking compared to it, they have 30, 40 different exchanges. So all of that, these exchanges want Omi, yet they're choosing as a company to kind of wait a little bit. And that's smart of them, especially to kind of like, like, hey, if you believe in this, invest in it, right? Dollar cost average down, and those will come. And then I'm hoping it's going to be, exchange 1 month, exchanges keep coming over the next, however, say year or two while we're in the bear market. But that's going to be helping us as investors who are buying at this dip price to then help push that coin up. So by the next bull market, maybe we could have, 15, we have 15 exchanges, and then people can actually get it on an app-based exchange or just larger exchanges. That's where we're going to be really shining during the next bull market.
Yeah, very well said. And I would just want to add one thing to the bear market, and that is, which project is capable of making millions for their partners in a bear market selling collectibles right now? It's like, put 30,000 or 20,000 editions of a Venom comic on the table and it sells out in 2 seconds. It's like, they are, if I am looking from an investment perspective and I step back from my, let's say, childish needs of having everything right now, of instant gratification, then I will probably agree that I want the business to do well and attract new business, and that is always the main focus before I get whatever functionalities that then will benefit me or what is the sense of having a master collector program if there are not so many collectors that can master the program, you know? And so from my perspective, I always want to see that they prove to new customers that they are worth putting the big brand in. And what they are showing right now is impressive, because they can even sell a hammer and a stone in 5 different variants, or in the tuna fish can in 5 different variants for $60. And it's selling. It's slower selling, but it's selling. And I'm not saying that it's bad. Probably a lot of people out there that like this one, but me personally, I think it's impressive, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's where they really stand out from most other NFT projects, right? That's why also they have over 100 different licensors who are in the queue, right? Like, they've been approached by large IP. Obviously, we have some already, but there's a lot that we still don't know about, as well as artists who are just waiting for their turn to have their brand on Veve, because it's a huge win for your company or your brand to be on Veve, because whether it sells out or not, like, they're making a solid amount. And then also, when you see a large brand that launches on an NFT project, it's usually a one and done, right? They'll drop, you know, maybe 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever of that NFT that they're working with a project. There's usually not a repeat, right? So with Veve, usually you get a series where it's like, you know, you look at like Ron English, right? He's had 3 different drops with Veve that have all sold out. So as an artist, he's crushing it with Veve versus his own NFTs that he would do with some other project. So it's pretty substantial to be a brand on Veve at this point, to be part of, you know, almost 7 million NFTs dropped. And usually when you do have a drop, whether you're an artist or a brand, the likelihood of them selling out is pretty high, depending on what kind of drop it is.
Absolutely. Do you think that David Hughes and Alfred Kahn's phones are sometimes without ringing? Or I try to imagine sometimes how the central of Veve must look like, with a lot of phones that are just going off all the time. Because probably, I mean, artists are looking at the success of other artists, of the big artists right now, and probably just try to give it a shot. Not everyone is a Disney that will call, and probably everyone tries to push in their NFTs into that channel. So
yeah, they're David Yu is a hardworking dude. And like, they've already talked about how, you know, they're on weekly calls with Apple. Like, you look at Veve, and even in a bear market, it's one of the highest performing digital entertainment apps in the App Store, right? So they're crushing it. They're constantly on calls, they're constantly in conversations, even forward looking. And when you look at like the leadership team, you have David and Dan, obviously. You have Alcon, who can bridge them into, in my opinion, probably most licensors that most projects would ever want. And then like, you look at like Jeremy Padour, right? Did you see that recent video of him helping is it Logan Paul?
yeah.
Buy the, you know, or sell his Pokemon card. I mean, he's a stakeholder in Omi, right? He's a stakeholder in Veve, even though he's not directly, you know, part of the leadership team. He's definitely seems like he is. So you have so much weight in the actual leadership of the team that it's crazy to think that they're not always in broader conversations that we still don't know about.
Absolutely. There was, for me, the in the term of that they are not in any conversations. For me, I think the biggest help they have from the licensors with that, because the licensors are probably pushing whatever, like journalists or everyone else, to just not report about this, because they give them probably some info in exchange. For hey, you get the info on our metaverse, like this article from 2D to Web3 is the best example. They are reporting about golden moments, but not naming Veve. I mean, it's one mouse click to discover that. Yeah. Now, with that said, if we are looking today, even today, with this little flash dump after the CPI numbers, Ecomi is still holding very strong. And now we have the question here from Mehdi. Could we see a decoupling from Bitcoin in that sense? And do you think that people underestimate Ecomi and Veve? And maybe if you want to give a take on this decoupling topic, I can also pull that up here, how it looks right now.
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin has an effect on all of crypto, right? So if Bitcoin is dropping 10%, alts usually drop heavier. And the fact is Omi is an altcoin, right? So typically it just creates fear in the market. And there's also, as much as we have, hodlers of Omi, there's plenty of swing traders. There's plenty of people with some large bags who will take that momentum, right? If I didn't do it because I definitely, I've told enough people, I'm holding Omi to a certain point, and then once I get 10x my average, I'll sell 10%, so that way I have my investment out, and then it's just house money to ride up to the highs that I know it will go to. So I mean, people who are swing trading it's pretty smart, right? You know that alts are going up. If you sold, let's say 10 million Omi at 0.0016 and then you buy back in at 0.0014, you're just increasing your bag. So it's a smart move. But with the decoupling from Bitcoin, I think that's going to be hard to do because it's pretty hard for alts to do that. But the fact is when everything's down and a major catalyst happens with an altcoin, you see positive movement in it, right? So Omi has that effect with a lot of the catalysts that are coming. And so we could see where it could have a rally in a bear market. And I do believe we will, but it's also going to kind of depend on what's going to happen with Bitcoin, which, that's why I tell everyone is whether you care about stocks or not, you need to pay attention to the broader markets, right? So every single morning I'm looking at stocks and I'm seeing what's happening with, the S&P 500 and different things to make sure like, okay, if it's sinking, I know alts are going to be soon to follow. Bitcoin's going to be soon to follow. So you could trade based on that. And I do swing trade some different crypto like Solana and different ones, but it's a smart tactic to make sure that you're paying attention to the broader markets because alts and Bitcoin will usually follow, especially with what's happening with inflation. Like 9.1% on the CPI for June was a surprise this morning for sure.
Despite rate hikes that have already been implemented and that should curb inflation.
Yeah. And we're thinking like everyone's been like, well, maybe we won't have 0.75 on the basis point hike that's coming the end of this month. But now people are saying it could jump an entire point, right? So exactly. I think the next 2 weeks we could see some more downward movement, and I'm prepared for that.
Absolutely. The best strategy is dry powder, and I didn't say it in the beginning, but guys, everything here is not financial advice. So you make your own research, your own choices. We are not financial advisors. Only some two people that will one day make a live stream in a cornfield in Germany. So yeah. But I just, because you said that a couple of minutes ago, I mean, if we look at the 90-day performance against ETH and BTC, we see that over the last 3 months, basically, it is better to be in Ecomi than to be in these two big players in the market. So, if you look at the year, it's not the better one. But if you consider that we only have a promise for value, and this is all driven by community whales and whatever speculative movement, we are in a pretty good standing right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that brings me to another comment here. NFT Savage says, guys, what do you think of those comments by David Yu and a while back that Singapore hedge fund is about to invest in Veve collectibles? True or false? Is it happening, or is this happening?
So I don't think David Yu drops things because he's trying to embellish, or I think he just gets so excited, or he says things without kind of thinking about whether he should or not, right? Because he's just excited about it, or because it's happening in the now, right? So I think the fact that this large Singapore hedge fund is, I think, yes, he's having those conversations, but I also wonder, the NFTs they're investing in, it probably a portion of it is going into Veve. It's not going to be, a massive amount, but at the same time, if they're going to jump into Veve, it would be a massive amount of collectibles they'd be buying, right? And I wonder what they would target, right? They're probably going to target the most, the grails or the largest IP on the app. And for a large hedge fund, like when I think about Singapore, I also think about, okay, well, they could also be clued into some things that we don't know, right? So David could be saying like, well, if you're going to jump in, like, what are you passionate on, or what do you want to like hold the most of? And so jumping back into the anime vertical, maybe there's something that could, oh, well, this is coming in the next, 6 months. Maybe this is where you want to park your money in the next 6 months. So they could be investing now. I don't think they are investing now. I think they're waiting for more of the market to be hit, which the market's extremely down. There's some great deals right now. But I think, is it true? I do think so. But we don't know the context, right? We don't know when they're jumping in. So making moves now makes sense to me before some of the larger players jump in, especially since there's also going to be not just people at San Diego Comic-Con, but they're directly working with or partnering with Marvel at that event, right? So there's going to be large media at the event. There's going to be large investors at the event. There's going to be celebrities at that event. So I think kind of timing where you want to invest your money in the VV market now while everything's on sale before that event makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I would even argue that it's not only Singapore hedge fund that we know of right now, because they reached out similar to the exchanges. For example, if you look at Gate.io, they never talked to the team. They just basically hijacked the token and listed it on the exchange. So why this might be one hedge fund that reaches out, but there could be others that are looking at, and usually whatever structure of a fund you have a little chunk that is not so little in full numbers, but percentage wise it's little, that you can invest in risky portfolios or in a risky portfolio share. And I mean, every funds manager that has a little bit an eye on the market sees that NFTs are now something that you could invest in, because they are going through a harsh winter. Most of these are not worth a lot, and some of these are, yes, the ultimate grails like CryptoPunks. We have seen one selling yesterday for $2.6 million. Mm-hmm. So if you would then look as a hedge fund or as a fund manager that has whatever share of investment portfolio into the app and see, okay, Disney licensed collectibles that are trading for $200 because there's no cash out and people are funding their own investment and stuff like that, might be something to allocate. And we have seen it. Vivi Fox is here on in the chat as well. She has done great analysis on whale behavior. We have seen a lot of whale wallets. Not all of them we know who it is. And some we have seen last week someone purchasing 1,500 collectibles in 2 days or so. It could be. And even if I was a fund like that, I would just make 3 people or so from the team KYC on the app and buy on 3 different portfolios to not be so obvious. So that's at least my take. I think it's credible if David says it, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, when you have that kind of money too, it's very easy to hop into, like, obviously you'd want to grab, some of the big IP, but it's very easy for them to just select a set collectible and then buy up the supply of it, right? And now you have controlling supply, and you can just make sure that, okay, well, we own 95% of a collectible, so we get to dictate who can actually complete this set or who can actually hold this collectible and charge a premium for it, right? So I think when you have that kind of money, that's a really smart tactic to do. And I think, in the next, I don't know, probably like a year or two, we'll see a couple of different collectibles go that route, where it's like, oh, I'm really happy that I have 1 or 2 or a couple of those, because now it's at this huge price point because some whale or 2 jumped into it and they just get to dictate what the cost of it will be.
Yeah, absolutely. And yesterday, actually, when Pokemon, he's also here on the chat, he pointed that out on Twitter, that I think there are 43 billion Pokemon cards or so in existence. And I think even the base set, where almost every card is slightly valuable compared to what it was worth in the beginning, it's over 1 billion, I think, of all the how many cards there are in circulation. So if we think there are only 6.7 million NFTs on Veve right now, total, you can see it on Immutascan, the correct number. If you were, I try to make sometimes comparisons just to get my own brain to realize what's happening. One comparison would be, try to gift every Bitcoin holder or everyone that could be having 1 Bitcoin, which is only 21 million, a Veve collectible, and you wouldn't have enough for everyone. So like, and we see how hard it is to get a Bitcoin. Obviously, not saying that the value is the same for each collectible, but right now we do not have enough collectibles to satisfy a broader user base.
100%.
Yeah, but yeah, speaking of that, I mean, we have talked a lot of bullish points already because of the hedge fund money and what is probably the next outlook in terms of localization. But I wanted to ask you, do you have what would be your major or your biggest concern right now? Because every investment, obviously, that is kind of risky has somewhat a downside, and people have different perspectives. What is your biggest concern with this project right now?
Man, I mean, for a long time now, especially like when I first hopped into Veve and Omi, I kept trying to find gaps, right? And so like they've had absolute crazy success when you look at them as a company compared to just outside of crypto, like just tech companies. It's pretty insane what they've been able to accomplish. But you know, there's always gaps. There's always ways to have a project fall through, right? Everyone was absolutely insane bullish on Terra and
Yeah.
you know, Celsius, and look what happened to them, right? So there's always something that's possible. And when I think about, you know, where there are some gaps with Veve, I think part of it is, you know, they had so much success so fast that they're just trying to keep up. And one thing that I do think that they make a mistake on is they do talk a little bit about what's coming too much versus having a roadmap for everyone to see. You know, this is the roadmap, or we could have delays. And I think that that creates some issues, not only for us as, you know, community, but also for the larger investors, right? So I think one thing that could affect them long term is that I think they need to continue to broaden out, right? Right now it's a digital collectibles app, right? It's an NFT project, and it'll soon be a metaverse coin, a metaverse project. But how they are going to become a household name has to be a bigger picture, right? So I think, you know, what they're doing with promo codes in the metaverse and all that, and I think that's the right way of going about it. But I wonder if there's just not enough, you know, of the company to actually help scale it fast enough. So I've talked about it a few times. I know a lot of people as well, where they're like, you guys need to hire more, and they are hiring, but they like running lean, right? They like being agile, which makes sense. But at the same time, they have so much success already, and they need to continue to move that needle. They need to continue to branch out into other things that can help them become that household name. So I do wish they brought on more, you know, creators and developers and marketing, which, you know, they did hire recently for marketing, but I do hope that they continue to hire out faster and get the right people in to help build it faster. So that way we can have that big success, especially to maximize what's going to happen in the next bull market.
Yeah, very well said. And I share the scaling. Let's call it a scaling concern. I also see it on the support side because obviously because of the history there with my cousin's account, I had a lot of things to do with the support side, and I think they're definitely, for a broader user base, they will need that to keep the user base satisfied. But I can also understand that the over promising, I can understand from a point that you want to get publicity out in the sense of which brands you have when you are already about to launch them, and which goals you have to attract more of these brands to place their brand into Veve. So in that sense, I can see that. But I agree with, I would say, if we look at the app right now and the web app so far after all this time, that someone or some people could say, is that everything you got? And how are you planning to build as Cavell sometimes says, a Ready Player One metaverse with these capacities? What do you think? This is the question that Rob also has. Probably a third-party company building the veveverse.
I mean, they've hinted at it, right? Like that they outsource quite a bit, and I do think so. I like when you think about who's all involved in the project or who's on the team direct. In order to build out the scale of the veveverse, and they've been working on it since, I think they created the actual veveverse, copyrighted name and all that, and like submitted everything back in 2020. So I do feel like they have been working with a third-party company or third-party companies for quite some time to help build it out, to make it, what we're all expecting it to be, because there are so many metaverse companies that have come out in the past year or two, right? So in order for them to really stand next to something like Decentraland or Sandbox, which that's the goal, versus just another metaverse project, they've had to really build it out, right? And like, we haven't even seen a hint of what it looks like, right? So I'm looking forward to when that comes, the end of this year, at least the first version, right? Which they've talked about, there'll be different phases. So will it be a full metaverse start? No, it'll be how I look at it as like an extended showroom, because it's going to be our VV homes, but then they can build on top of that, right? So when they update a showroom, it's kind of like, okay, well, there's a new look to it, or you can do this now in it, but it'll actually have that metaverse feel, right? Where it actually looks much, much stronger. And there's interoperability, right? There's you're able to put your NFTs in it and hopefully do more social aspects. And that's the piece that I think why they've been building out so secretly for so long, is they want it to really stand with something like Decentraland or Sandbox versus just being another metaverse, right? So a lot of metaverse projects came out in the past year, and they just stood it up and they made it a thing, and the token or the project did really well, and then it kind of comes crashing back down, and they can't retain users. Users are what make a metaverse project strong and what help it kind of withstand during a bear market. So they're going to be launching this metaverse project in a bear market where most other companies are trying to count their dollars and like, how can we make this better? How can we make it stronger? But we're not making as much money. Veve has a ton of money now, and they continue to generate more and more. And so now they can launch this in a bear market with a community that they've already built up that's larger than Decentraland and Sandboxes combined. And that's really going to be something that's going to be great to see. And just, I can't wait for the teaser videos to come out later this year. And then we're going to be like, oh my God, it's hard to kind of like contain your expectations when it's been building for, at least the past 2 years.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. And with the technology outlook that we get from Apple, and now with these AR lenses, we are closer than I would have thought a couple of months ago. So yes, definitely. I know I'm sorry to the chat and everyone else. I know I have let a lot of questions slip and a lot of comments slip. I'll just select a few of them because there are so many. But yeah, I think you have already responded in the chat, but I wanted to pull that up here. I have a friend, says Tommy Vesper, that works in the Middle East, and he showed his boss Veve, and he said when his boss saw Star Wars NFTs, he completely lost his mind. Prepare for Middle East whales. Yeah. So yeah, I think so too, and they are going with. We have already seen it. They are selecting certain drops for certain areas where people could go crazy about. Many people in the Asian region, they don't go so far with, or they have not so close ties to the Marvel universe maybe, but they have their own heroes. And I think they are, if we have seen one thing with the Peely drop, is that they are exactly knowing what is exciting people in a specific region.
Yeah. And when you look at some of the money that's in the Middle East and some of the actual like hedge funds and different things that are in that area, tons of money. I mean, we mentioned the Logan Paul Pokemon card earlier, and he was in Dubai, right? And Dubai is very, very much moving towards NFTs and augmented reality and like trying to embrace it, right? There's the Meta Cafe, which, Calscope is working directly with, where it's this huge, restaurant, bar, cafe, where they're extremely embracing crypto and NFTs to the point where they're having specific, like meetups and things like that, where they're going to this cafe that is all NFT centric, and more is going to go that way. So when you think about when they see things like Star Wars NFTs or Marvel NFTs, and you can't get that anywhere else because they hold the license, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah. And there are some shows that no one knows outside of Germany for kids that are German rooted, but everyone, like 80 million people basically in Germany, know them. So once they bring these, everyone in the world will be like, what is this? But they might be then still with an edition size of maybe 5,000 to 6,000 or so be very valuable, because they're maybe at this time through mass adoption and localization, if let's say 500,000, 1 million Germans are using the Veve app through whatever channels, then I can see this going through the roof.
That's a really good point. I think for like I guess probably at least a year back, right? It seemed like let's get the top IP, the top licensors, get them under contract, and we'll announce that we're working with them. But I think now that they're finding they've have so much success, they could do a more targeted strategy, right? Where they're like, okay, localization's coming. How about we're targeting the largest brand in Germany, the largest brand in Dubai, the largest brand in China, and then drop those accordingly. So that way you're just onboarding a flood of new users who are passionate about that brand or show or whatever it is. And, whether you're in Australia or UK or America, and you're like, I have no idea what this is. It's more targeted for bringing them in, and then they find the other IP and just become a larger community.
And the funny thing is, we have heard that cars, besides the movie cars, are very likely and potential vertical coming to the app from real car manufacturers. So you just need to win one of the big 5 in Germany that are all sitting very close together, and the others are basically forced to find either alternatives or come to the app as well if it makes success. So you have Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, BMW, and Volkswagen here. And they all have communities. Like if you look around, people are wearing polo shirts from Porsche. They wear hats and caps from Mercedes and Porsche. So why not? The merch is huge. So probably that you are a Mercedes or Porsche driver, you might want to display that in a metaverse as well, with either the car or the accessories. Yeah,
I'd love to see once like something like Porsche drops something like that. Someone who has like their, whatever their Porsche NFT, like while they're driving on the Autobahn, like alongside having it look like it's going on the Autobahn. Like I think that'd be great.
Did you drive here?
Did I think
you would know? No, because you can drive like 280 kilometers per hour on the left side without speed limit. But yeah, really looking forward if there's one day, whatever German event where Veve is and you're coming over, that's definitely something you have to do if it's still possible.
I've driven through like Spain and Portugal, but when I did my Euro trip a number of years back, I took the train in, so I haven't had the experience yet of driving on it. But one day, and I definitely want the kind of car that deserves to go fast.
Oh yeah, Omi for Lambo.
Lambo.
NFT Savage says something big will happen next week at Comic-Con. So get ready. I've seen a big announcement around big events since early 2021. And also, if I can just combine this, isn't there something with 60 years of Spider-Man or so?
Is there?
I saw this on Twitter. Someone said it's this week or next week or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if there is, then I imagine there would be something specific for Spider-Man, right? So I think, and actually, I can't remember, sorry if you're in the chat, there's a guy who actually got early access to Comic-Con, and he shared on YouTube him like walking around this big Spider-Man, centric showroom and all that. And it was very much like the history of Spider-Man. And you see like some of the comics in there, you see some of the statues and all that. And it looked like one of the statues is the exact pose from the one where he's like crouched down that you can see in Veve. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, NFT Savage. Like this is the first Comic-Con live in 3 years because of the lockdowns and all that. So first of all, it's sold out extremely fast, and there's a lot of people going. People are excited for it. And this is also the first year that Comic-Con is working with a partner that's actually helping them to build out further Comic-Cons around the world. So there's a lot of eyes on this Comic-Con. So them working directly with Marvel, and Marvel having such a large, presence specific on Spider-Man. I agree. There's going to be a big announcement, or there's going to be some big effects due to this.
You have shown the booth with the spot where they are, and Veve directly attached below on your live stream, if I recall it right. Was that you? Yes, right.
On what they're going to have the booth for this event.
Yeah, for the next Comic-Con. So
I don't think it was mine, but I am curious to see, I guess, kind of, what where their positioning is going to be at the booth, right? But either way, the fact that they're going to be at Marvel's booth, like when you think about what people are going for, they're going for DC, they're going for Marvel, they're going for things that are specific, they're going for comics, but also just, all the collectibles and things that are physically there. And then they come in there and they're like, oh, this NFT company I've never heard of is directly at the booth, and they have Marvel NFTs that no other project has. That's huge.
And they have collectors like Sleeping Comics with thousands of subscribers on already on their site that are probably sometimes watched at least by these physical collectors. I was thinking about one thing that could be the decisive catalyst here to bring these people in, and I thought about how smart that is. I didn't figure that out a while ago, but the Veve exclusive rare and ultra rare covers, they didn't choose the secret rare, so they are still available. Right now we see it. There are ultra rares with nice covers for 16 gems at the moment on the app that are Veve exclusive. So what I thought is, if they on these Comic Cons display these covers and say, you might have all the covers of this and that series, but if you go to this app, to Veve app, you will see officially licensed from these artists covers that you don't have. You're basically forcing this analog collector into the app.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So I completely I see this is going to be a big event, like NFT Savage says. Mehdi commented on this point before. He doesn't agree. Look what happens to Coinbase in terms of scaling. He says they have been scaling too much, and now they have fired a lot of people.
So, I mean, with Coinbase, they hired a ton like most other projects did, because it was in a bull market. It was the season of IPOs, right? Everything went nuts. And there was such a heavy emphasis on Coinbase, right? And yes, they've laid off a lot of people, as well as other crypto projects have. And outside of crypto, even just other tech companies, they're having to now let off a lot of people because they hired them to help scale. And then now they're like, okay, well, we overhired, or we're going into like a down market. We need to kind of consolidate and care about where our money's going. And so the fact is, they hired those people, they put in work to help scale. And then now they're like, okay, now we need to kind of take a back seat and kind of make sure that we're going to come out the other side stronger, whether we're in an economic downtrend for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. So they need to prepare for that. So it sucks for those people who got fired. And I can't imagine like starting at Coinbase and you're there 6 months and you're like, man, this is awesome. I'm working for my dream company. And then you're laid off like that. That's absolutely terrible. But as a company, I do think that it makes sense to hire in a down market when you have a big vision. And of course, Coinbase has obviously large vision, right? They had their NFT marketplace, which kind of seems like it was a flop, but ultimately they're going to come out the other side stronger, and they're going to end up hiring a ton again. But Veve you can't really compare it to Coinbase, because Coinbase is already a large company. They have hundreds and hundreds, if not already well over 1,000 employees, whereas Veve has 45, and yet they are a marketplace. They are an NFT project. They're going to be a metaverse project now. And so comparing them to Coinbase, I get it. But if they hired another 20 people, that would help them scale fast. And I don't think they'd have to lay off, people just because we're in a down market. Instead, they're hiring in a down market versus hiring during an explosive market, which is what Coinbase did.
I completely agree with this one, but I want to make one point in the direction of Mehdi, which is not about Coinbase, but about having a lean team, as you said before, that they want to go with this. I don't know if you have read the book 0 to 1 from Peter Thiel. He's one of the founders of PayPal.
Mhm.
So you have probably read the book, and I think they have founded Palantir as well afterwards.
I'm a Palantir investor.
So yeah,
I'm a
and
big fan of Peter Thiel. I haven't read the book, but big fan of Peter Thiel.
So because Palantir operates in the same mode than PayPal has in the early days, that they are working very lean with big project acquisitions in that sense, that they try to get into the military projects or private sector with high security levels. And he describes in this book that they on purpose operated so lean so that they could be flexible enough so that they could be with these partners to streamline their business, readjust, to not get too hierarchical with several stages and so on. So I was always trying to find, or I was seeing similarities to this model with Veve when I looked at David Yu and Dan and Reese, and only a couple of selected people with extraordinary capabilities. Yeah. Well, so let's see what else we have, because chat is still running away from me. Let me just see here. People are still talking about the metaverse. That are still talking about the metaverse are naive and definitely not in the Web3 space. The metaverse is far off for the best companies doing it. You haven't seen a hint because it's not coming.
I mean, I do feel that the Veveverse is coming. I think that, again, the first phase is going to happen the end of this year, but it's a multi-phase thing, right? So usually when a company drops Metaverse, it's like, here it is, right? And there's no real, it doesn't seem like there's really follow-ups on like scaling it or getting more users. But I mean, the metaverse is being worked on by large companies, right? Like you obviously have Facebook changing their name to Meta. You have, companies like Microsoft that are building wearables for it, but like there's a lot happening in the space from a broader side, like actual companies jumping in, but the Veveverse is coming. And I do think that, it's different, right? Because you have centralized metaverses, you have decentralized metaverses, and then you're going to have hybrid. And that's where Veve kind of fits in, is in that hybrid side where it's a centralized metaverse like the app, but you can have decentralized, assets in it. So I get where you're coming from. And I do think that people hype up metaverse, hype up Web3 a lot more than they really understand like the timeframes of it coming. But when you look at the development of the technology, when you look at the development of broader projects coming in, it's still on the early stage. And it will be like metaverse will be an early stage until like 2026. And then you're going to see a lot more broadening out from 2026 to 2031. And then it'll be in like it's full, you're crazy if you have a company and you don't have something tied to the metaverse after that point, where it'll be really, really, like this is the world that we live in now. It is this digital environment. This is the metaverse. This is overlays of technology in the real world where you're walking up to a bar and you have a wearable on and only you can see, certain function or like an overlay of that world. And like Niantic's doing things like this, where it's an overlay of that AR functionality into real life. And only you can see it because maybe you have that digital asset. So you have MetaMask tied to your AR, sunglasses or whatever you're wearing. And you can go into there and maybe get discounts, or there's just other functionality that's coming. But I do agree that it's so hyped up right now. And what people have built out is so minute to what it will be.
Yeah. I agree with it. In terms of quality, I mean, we see it. I think Sandbox has a Minecraft looking like Metaverse. They have, I think Playboy has partnered with them. They have shown how that looks. And I think this is all short term. We know that Metaverse is looking a little bit like, or similar for me at least, like games. And games you usually have a short life cycle. Right now there are more games than real metaverses because we are not having overlays, we're not having the goggles, we are not having real metaverse use. We're having what metaverse is supposed to be on a screen. It's like a demo version, in my opinion. But you brought up a very important point, and that is everyone is talking. Like if you tune into like BitBoy, the bigger crypto channels, everyone is talking about decentralized. metaverse decentralized chains, and there is a level of centralization that is required by B2B projects. I think you are also invested in VeChain, if I recall it right. And also there, no one of these companies wants to partner with a completely decentralized chain. They want this proof of authority mechanism. So yeah, I definitely see that Veve having a broadly centralized metaverse is very attractive to the companies.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of decentralization, but if there's like a TapsVerse or something, if I created a metaverse company, I would want to have forms of centralization, because the scope, the ability to actually scale is much, much higher than a fully decentralized metaverse project. And that's because you have the ability, there's like a safety net for companies that work for you, as well as a broader audience that you can reach, right? To this day, when you look at how many people have a MetaMask versus how many people will invest in crypto on something like Robinhood, you can't even compare them, right? So the ability to actually reach a huger audience is so much broader when you actually have centralization. And we'll see more and more go towards decentralization, but the fact is your grandma is not going to create a MetaMask and go on to Sushi Swap and buy coins that way, or Uniswap or whatever, versus hopping on an app that they know, they trust, they understand, and just buy it that way. Same thing is going to be with Metaverse.
Yeah, people want to consume the front end. They don't want to use back-end technology, like sending stuff around. And and also companies don't want that changes need the approval of people that may be positioned already against them, in the sense like eternal votings and nodes. They want to have specific validator nodes that can say, okay, we are going to implement these changes now because our B2B partners need it. Yeah. So in that sense, I'm also a fan of decentralization, and so don't get me wrong here, people, but I think for Veve, it's great to have a high degree of centralization. Yeah. For the collectibles that we can send them around, I think nothing stands against it to have them at least interoperable to most of these, or to the upcoming metaverse, if it would be more like an infrastructural space than really one project. I don't know. How do you feel about interoperability? Do you see that, or is that something that licensors would block out?
I mean, they've said it's coming, right? So, and I think they have to in order to really help the project. But like when it comes to the larger IP, right? There's been people who said like, there's no way Marvel or Disney or DC or whatever will allow interoperability, and they took a risk in like putting their IP on Veve, and it had great success, right? And so they're like, you're now seeing Disney where they're like talking about their metaverse, and so it looks like they're going that route, right? So I think a year ago, they're probably uneasy about it. They're like less likely, well, we don't really want to give access of our IP, our brand, to everyone or to other projects at the ability, but it's becoming more of a free market mentality. And so for them to continue to do well on Veve and then also on their own projects outside of Veve, they have to go that route. And I think that comfortability is coming as more time happens. So I do think interoperability will happen for Marvel, will happen for Disney, and we'll have the ability to, sell them on Immutable X marketplace as well as OpenSea and other things in the future. But, we don't even have Veve NFTs in Immutable X yet, which was supposed to happen. But I do think, I can't confirm because they're very protective of their partners and what they say about them, right? Like I always think back to the digital San Diego Comic-Con, where the setup of the metaverse experience that some other company brought for Veve was not great, and they never said anything bad about that company, but it looks like they kind of dropped the ball. And I think potentially that the reason why we don't have our Veve NFTs even in Immutable X marketplace is because of something that's happening internally at Immutable X, where they need to really figure out, okay, how can we put, maybe it's not all of them, right? But how can we put at least, 1 million, 2 million of those almost 7 million NFTs into our marketplace and make it look, feel, and work well with their platform? So it's coming, but I am curious to see what's going to drop first in terms of what will be in other marketplaces versus just Veve's.
Yeah, I agree, and I think if the licensors, they will crave this attention that right now only CryptoPunks and Ether Rocks get. This and that collectible sold for 2.6 million on an open. This is only if you hand it over to free market. Ecomi Skywalker is coming in. Thank you so much for the donation. HODLER, I don't have music like Taps says. If you donate to Taps on his stream, he has music going off. I don't have the music, but Ecomi Skywalker is actually he is constantly working to bringing out the name of Ecomi even to the BitBoy channel. I have found him being cited there on the BitBoy show and brought that into a video. So great job, man.
Nice. I love when people do that. And like, if you hop on a live stream and I see, I remember like Johnny Dunn would do that on like Gary V's and other channels where they have like a stream and you can see like, have you checked out Veve yet, or like Omi and like things like that. And I love when people get the brand, and like, it's just part of it, right? Where it's like, and BitBoy covered Omi way back in 2021. And they like, it said it was sponsored, but Veve and Ecomi actually said like, we didn't pay for it, right? So it was just some fan or someone who was like, all right, I'm going to pay BitBoy to get out there. And I'm not saying, anyone needs to do that, but we've seen where the largest crypto channels did cover Omi and Veve back in 2021, like BitBoy and Altcoin Daily. That's going to happen again, especially if there's some big movement happening in a bear market where it's like, okay, we've covered this in the past, and what's moving in the bear market? Omi just shot up 70%, over 100% probably in the next couple of months, but that's going to be highlighted on those channels again, I'm sure.
Yeah, as soon as things start to go skyrocket, it will show up. Absolutely. Actually, Cryptos R Us had at the time a sponsored little Ecomi logo in his between all his sponsors there. So I think that was actually when I asked my cousin about if he knows Ecomi, because I was interested in the token without directly knowing what exactly it is. And then he said, yes, I'm on this app and I bought a Dragon Girl, whatever, and they are going to release a Spider-Man right now. And I was like, yeah, Spider-Man statue, lame. And then after the Spider-Man statue dropped, he came again and said they are releasing the first Marvel comic ever. And then I was hooked. That's when I entered.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to see. I remember how exciting it was. I think back in like May of last year when we got to like 100,000 users, and we're like, oh my God, this is crazy, right? They were hoping to be at the end of year at that. And then it went absolutely ballistic with Marvel, and then again with Disney. And, the fact that they well over 10x'd their community goals in a year is insane. And I think we're going to see more IP dropping and more people jumping in again. That's going to be, again, really, really exciting to see.
Imagine thinking back to the times where you didn't get stuff because of all the botting and going through all these things and buying Marvel #1 at 4 gems on the market and sniping with this old system where you had to load all the covers. So in a couple of years, we will probably laugh about that these times. Yeah.
And what's great is, all the people who are going to be coming in, this is their first experience with Veve, right? It's very different from our first experience. So the fact that, and I saw a lot of people talking about how, about how like KYC is a potential, issue or gate to new users, but that's their first experience. And it's going to be like, okay, if I want this Spider-Man NFT, if I want this, Mickey Mouse NFT, I have to KYC, which is extremely easy. If you haven't KYC'd yet, it's really, really fast to do. And so it's not much of a barrier, and that's going to be their first experience, right? And they're not going to have the same issues that we had with our first experience, whether it's extreme botting every single drop or, heavy load issues. And so I'm happy to see like how much easier it is to be a Veve user versus where it was before.
Yeah, and being rewarded for trying the rebound until 45 minutes in to get a golden homer still on the drop. It's already from now, it seems so crazy that this was only a couple of months ago. So if I think back to the Disney golden moment wave and the excitements that we all had about this, it seems 2 years in the past.
Yep. Time flies.
Absolutely. Actually, I saw 5,000 questions here. That was we need. Yeah. Sorry, that was the question. I already clicked it. Sorry here. So what do you guys think about the gems being more rare and valuable in the future?
Well, so they're making it, you know, difficult or potentially hopefully impossible to really sell, you know, black market gems, right? Or to sell them at and so it makes sense, right? They're trying to make it all app based and try to make it so that you have to use MTL and things like that. But I don't really have a strong opinion on, I guess, you know, gems being more rare or valued in the future, because I think where the biggest value is OMI to NFT, right? Like we want utility of the token and we want more crypto in the app. Like the fact that you can cash out into 5 different crypto, huge surprise. And that's awesome. But I would like the ability to use crypto on collectibles as well. And that's when you think about like real whales, right? Like we have whales in Veve already, but when you think about actual NFT and crypto whales who are sitting on tons and tons and tons of Ethereum, and okay, like there's tons of people who have tons of OMI as well. And so you think about people who have, you know, hundreds of million to some over a billion or two of OMI, what they can buy in the app.
Yeah.
Like that's where I think there's more value, and is not the gems, but in OMI and other crypto.
Yeah, I think the biggest concern that I have is that some collectibles will be not purchasable anymore for people that don't recycle over other collectibles to get the gem stack. Because, for example, if you like in Germany, I don't know how it's in the US, but in Germany it's common to have a credit card limit. For example, like younger people that don't have a good job or stuff like that, they only have 1,000 euros limit, maybe 2,000-3,000 euros limit to load up. And right now euros and dollars is the same from the value, so you can really calculate it in the same 2 gems. So if I think, okay, Veda is 7k and I want to buy it, how would I do that? I cannot load up gems and I cannot buy it because the credit card would be maxed out and it would be rejected. So that is a concern that I have, but I cannot believe that they would actually, let such a chance slide to have people investing the maximum amount. So I don't know where it's going. Yeah. Actually, I've seen something funny here. I want to pull this up, right? Fred says, Fred says Patient HODLER is the pre-gym version and TapsTrades is the post-gym version of Patient HODLER. Oh my God.
That's like a funny but stab at
I mean, I don't know how I feel about this, but I think it's quite funny. And actually, it's a compliment, because if he's only referring it to the sizes of body, I'm completely fine if we are not far from each other in the rest of the sense. It's all good. But yes, Fred, you're right. I will not be able to wield that big sword in the background without some extra training. So there you're pretty right there. Other than that, I want to, because you said OMI to NFT would be the ultimate goal here. That's what you want to see. So I want to challenge that thought a little bit, because Reese has said in one AMA, not in one AMA, on the live stream of Essentially Crypto, that they are looking at purchasing NFTs with other crypto. And from a standpoint of having NFTs with 300 something in my portfolio right now, I like this idea, obviously, because I want Ethereum whales to deploy their crypto and buy stuff with Ethereum. But from my standpoint as an Ecomi investor, I ask myself, how does the token get value if you don't need it? So yeah.
I think that's a great point, because I feel similarly, right? So like I hold OMI and I'm an OMI investor. So when you bring in the ability to spend other crypto, then they go, okay, I can just buy these collectibles with Ethereum. Why would I go on Bitforex or Gate.io, like an exchange that many don't use, to buy this token and then use that token in the app where I can just use Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever. That it's bullish for Veve to be able to use other crypto. Now, I think how you make it so that people are incentivized to use Omi is you make it so they're incentivized to use Omi, right? So whether it's Omi staking or whatever, where it's like, okay, you can buy collectibles or sell collectibles at a lower fee. I think that would be how you can incentivize it. Or the ability to use Omi exclusively, maybe in the veveverse. Like that would be something that I'd say would be a stronger, use case for Omi versus Ethereum, but they still need to make sure that Veve is successful, right? They do very much as Omi utility is coming, and it will be tied to Veve. Veve is the car, right? Like you need to have all the foundation, you need to have the entire structure of it, and make sure that it's continuing to build, right? So that makes sense to use other crypto in Veve for Veve to continue to grow, continue to be successful, to bring in other whales, but they need to make sure that they're not devaluing Omi. And so I do agree that it's like, that's a good thing, but you need to make it really, really attractive to buy and hold Omi, to use it in the app. So I'm curious to see how that looks if and when they do bring in other crypto into the Veve app.
Yeah, completely agree. I have some ideas actually how it could go, but obviously, and I believe the team is also trying to figure out a way that goes in conformity with regulations if they have not already breached that one with ICO, and therefore we need to take a look at Ripple case, or keep a close eye to the Ripple case, I think. But in terms of ideas, for example, what I could see is, and there I don't know if I disagree with Randy. I've seen your live stream. I think the last live stream of you and Randy on your channel, he mentioned that all the burns that we are having, and in the last videos I made the point that if you burn a worthless token, to say it really harsh, then it's still worthless. So the price will not go up. Just maybe it goes up by burning it because people don't know what's happening. But if everyone's clear on that, you cannot do anything with it, why would you hold it, even if it's only 2 Omi tokens left or so? But the idea that obviously purchasing Omi to deposit it to then get benefits in the app is one factor. You would have TVL, temporary lockup. Another one would be that you only can transfer NFTs out of the Veve app if you pay the gas fees for that, but if immutable is without gas fees, so I don't see that. But somehow a transfer out fee that you need to pay in Omi or so that you need to have Omi to at least make certain, like you want to get a collectible into the metaverse, you need to pay some Omi or so. That's what I could see. But other than that, I'm a little bit worried about this one.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I actually like your idea of, okay, if you want to bring a collectible into the metaverse, or if maybe, you want to go into Veve versus Disney World, right? Like if they have something like that coming, you have to have a fee to get in, kind of like you would with Disneyland, right? Or Disney World. Or if you wanted to, travel to a certain location, like it costs Omi, like that would make sense to me as well. But I think part of it too, and I do agree with you, right? Like what's the point of being excited in a token burning tons if there's no utility to it? And it's that kind of future state mentality where it will have utility, there will be interoperability, that it'll have uses tied to Veve, tied to the Veveverse and things like that. So right now, yeah, if it's burning 1 billion Omi in a day, it's not too exciting because again, it's just lowering the total supply, but the token doesn't do anything. So why does it matter? But it will, right? And so at some point, in the next, 3 years or so, when you're like, oh, there's only a third left of this token and it has all this utility, that's where it starts really mattering, right? Because we have a huge supply because they built it out to hopefully last at least 10 years. And it's not going to make it to 10 years, right? With at least the rate it's going at. So that's where I really see it's kind of like, okay, I'm not thinking about Omi value so much, right now. I'm buying it now because it's so low, but I'm thinking about where it will be. And that's with any kind of investment, when you're investing in a growth stock or you're investing in a company, you're not, well, if you are buying it at highs when a major catalyst is happening, that's not the best way to make money. The best way to make money is you find a strong investment, you find a strong company, you find something that's doing well or going into a market that's continuously evolving, invest in it while it's actually doing that, and then where it will be in the next couple of years. And like when you look at Tesla, you look at all these other companies that have done extremely well in the past year or two, and it's people who invested in it before they got there that made the most money. And that's really where I see Omi.
Yeah, I totally agree, because if we look at the creativity that they have put up and the thought that they have put up already 4 years ago to bring Veve where it is, I have more ease to trust that they can do the same for Ecomi token holders. And certainly they wouldn't encourage someone like Randy to go with a 132 million or what he has. At least they would have hopefully at least given him a heads up if it would not go in the right direction. And yes, I believe that they will figure something out, and there will be always a way for them to make it possible that it holds value. And one thing of this actually circled yesterday on Twitter. It is old code, but it's still there, which is Omi to Gem. And a lot of people, I think, didn't know and saw this as news, like it's new, that they can basically turn this functionality on and off. And it was, I think, linked to this Thor hammer. So if this was a possibility in the future to kind of enable people to buy the gem with the Omi, so that the Omi amount that you need for this gem then goes into the Vault wallet directly to then be transferred into the Burn wallet, then I think it would be possible to give a lot of value to Omi.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, part of it too is they very much keep what they're doing with Omi close to the chest, and I think it's smart, right? Like we've all said, like, we want all these things, we want Omi to do all these things, but they keep talking about, you know, regulations and things that they need to make sure that Omi, you know, stays very secure and also is released in the right way in terms of things it can do, which now we're seeing all of these different, you know, tokens and projects that are running into huge issues, especially with a lot of the regulation that's coming with crypto. And they played it smart. They played it safe, right? And those projects that did so are going to be okay. And the ones that didn't, who took the risk and took on way too much during a bull market, are getting hurt for it now, right? And they're going to get hurt worse when that regulation actually does come, whether it's 2023 or further out. But it's projects that make the safest and kind of draw out those moves that end up doing the best, right? You look at Ethereum. I mean, ETH 2.0 was talked about coming out back in 2019, and here we are 2022, and it's still not here. And it could come potentially in 2022. I don't think it's going to come until 2023 personally, but you look at those projects and look how well Ethereum's done. Look at how much it's used, and ETH 2.0 is still not here, right? Same thing with Cardano. Cardano, they just released smart contracts, which they were working on since 2017, and the price went nuts, but now it's way back down. And now they're actually just going into their scaling side, their scaling phase. And so it's those projects that take the most time, that make the most considerations. And, you know, they want us to all be happy. They want to release probably more than they can, but it makes sense to kind of pump the brakes and wait and build smart.
Imagine the Veve fam was the Ethereum fam. Man, that Ethereum 2.0, the project would have been declared dead, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy too. Like, I always kind of look at the transaction volume on Omi, and, you know, when you look at where it spiked up in March of last year, I think it was like, you know, I can't remember what the number, but it was huge. And we're, in terms of transaction volume compared to other crypto in the top 100, top 50, it's baby. It's so small, but we've seen where it can go, right? So I think now how much it's matured and where Omi can actually eventually hopefully be used in the app, it's insane to really think about just how much gain potential Omi has, right? It was one of the top performing crypto in 2021. And in my opinion, not financial advice, it inevitably will be again. And I'm most hopeful for 2024 and 2025 for the next Bitcoin halving, when the next, you know, massive bull run will be. And that's where I think they're going to shine the most.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, we have seen, as you said, if the volume comes back to Omi, and we see it right now. I mean, if you look at after the stream or so at TradingView to this drop from inflation, it has all been eaten up. Like this little hammer forming, or at least that was when it's down 0.06% only right now. So yeah, it's crazy how strong it holds right now. Sorry.
I was just going to add, and that volume will inevitably go up too when it's more accessible. Like we've talked about the exchanges, right? Like, not knocking Gate.io or Ascendex or Bit4x or whatever, but I didn't use any of those before Omi, and I don't buy other things on those besides Omi. So when it does come to a KuCoin or Coinbase or Binance or Kraken or just more widely used and known app-based or just exchanges in general, that volume will increase. There'll be more investors. It'll just be easier to get, right? If I can buy Omi on my mobile device through an app, it's no, and like we talked about Robinhood, I don't think Robinhood will be fast to list Omi until it gets the larger exchanges first. But, we saw Shiba, right? We saw Shiba shoot up and be available on Robinhood and other things like that. So there's potential in the future, but I also think about how that volume will increase once more exchanges do come.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, availability, value, and then scarcity will be the main drivers, obviously. Yeah. So Ivan, thank you very much for the donation. I had it pulled up here, but still VVBC. So yeah, you can say that before crypto, basically, before the next bull market, we will maybe referring back to that. That was VVBC, and then all the good stuff comes out that really puts it on the path to mass adoption. So NFT Savage says some people have 2 accounts. If you can only KYC 1 account, how will people be able? So you also have more than 1 account, right?
I do, but before I don't think I don't use my second account really anymore. And before, I think I kind of stopped using it for the most part because I saw like the drops weren't, as crazy or as hard to get because of what they did, right? With turning off transfers and all that. So I don't know. I wish there was more clarification on this. I've heard people say or talk that it's possible to KYC more than 1 account, but I don't have confirmation of it, right? I think the only way to get confirmation on that is directly from Veve. But I am curious on that, right? Because if they verify you on 1 account and you can show, I use a second account because I was, trying to go for a drop with, 2 phones, which they never said you couldn't do. Or I was, using a second account because I was using that to specifically sell. Like for me, I would sell on that second account because I noticed that when I list something, people will strategically place, something lower than me just to kind of, try to make sure I didn't sell it or to get theirs sold first. So for me to sell on that second account where it didn't have my name attached to it, it was easier to do so. So I hope you can. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think the easiest strategy for me, if it's only 2 accounts, would be to have someone else KYC it to maintain full functionality on this account. It's like, if I'm not mistaken, you can go to the web app and change your name. You cannot change the country of residence nor your nickname, but that's also not relevant if you have the same passport. So I would, if I had 2 accounts, I don't, because I always thought, okay, my girlfriend is going to do some drops and I do some drops and that's it. That's what we are going to do. But if I had 2 phones, I would probably just ask someone in my family if he could just KYC this one.
Yep.
If it's possible. I don't know if there's a barrier to this, but I don't believe so, because if I'm not mistaken, you can really KYC or change the name and then KYC. Then we had the question here. When do you guys think we will start to see mainstream advertisement for Veve? So we dove into this earlier already. I think I'm fairly sure they have scaled the servers, so we won't be seeing drop glitches we used to have back in the day. Yeah, we answered this question a little bit before, in the sense that we see essential milestones already that need to be addressed before, right?
Yeah. I think the advertising makes, I mean, they're already doing like the promo things, right? Like we're seeing like working with like major movie theaters. I think that the marketing focus will definitely take priority. They said it'll happen after everyone can cash out, which, you know, is obviously continuing to trickle to everyone. But I do think that marketing will definitely kick in more following San Diego Comic-Con. And I don't think it'll be, you know, like all of it hits all at once, but we'll see more marketing and more strategic things around it probably in like this summer.
Yeah, I can see that too. I think if everyone has KYC cash out done, everything, we will go back to this path where we can focus on how they are exactly expanding this. I think that the whole focus has been shifted away from what this project is really trying to do, and the people that wanted to leave, they are finally ready to leave the project. Then one question that I had taken note is regarding cash out, because you already said that cash out is possible. You have cash out. Did you already try it, or how did it work for you? Can you share? Because I don't even have KYC invites, so I cannot comment on this. But if you have made experiences, would be great to hear it from you.
Yeah, I actually did a video on how to cash out and like showed everyone how to do it. And so I do have access, and it's super, super easy. You know, what's up, Energy? Happy to see you in here, man. KYC is extremely fast and easy. And then once you are KYC'd and cash out, I just to try it, you know, turned $100 or took gems, 100 gems. You do have to have at least 1,000 gems in order to cash out, right, in your balance. But I sold 100 gems into Ethereum, and it was so fast, super, super fast. And I had Ethereum and MetaMask, and I checked, it was there. So it's very, I haven't done the bank transfer or anything like that, just because I'm more crypto centric in general. But from what I've heard, that's also extremely easy. You just have to make sure that you find the SIC code and all that relative to your bank and all that. But yeah, it was very, very easy, very, very seamless. And yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. I cannot wait to at least try it one time, or maybe I find a way. I'm not the guy who flips or sells or whatever, but maybe I can somehow try it, although it requires, I think, a stack of at least 1,000 gems to be able to cash out something. So I usually have everything in collectibles, and then I sit on them patiently, hodling them. But yeah. So what's going on? Danny the Bull is also here in the channel. Energy we have seen before. NFT Savage is heading out, has to play soccer with his son. So yeah, see you, and thank you for all the questions, even though we couldn't get to see all of those. Also, we had we have around 100 people here in the channel. So if you could do us a favor and smash the like button a little bit to just get the algorithm a little bit of food, so more people can educate themselves about Omi and Veve and get to know us a little bit more. That would be great. And also subscribe if you haven't yet to my channel. Yeah. So I think we had a lot of marathon through so many serious topics. So what I wanted to touch base with you is we are both doing Veve channels. We have this journey. You have started a journey with Ecomi and Veve way back. So I really am curious, how did you find the project? How did you find Veve and Ecomi?
So, I mean, I've been in crypto since 2018, and there's certain crypto that I've invested in over that span of time. And one of them that I invested in, like I think 2020, was Zilliqa. And so I'm a big fan of Zilliqa. And so, I watched YouTube just like everyone else. And, I didn't have a channel back then. And so I watched Blockchain Andy's channel a lot. And because he's a big Zilliqa whale. And back in February, I think the video was February 11th. and he always found like hidden gems and certain things besides Zilliqa, and he showed Veve and talked about the Omi token, talked about the Veve collectibles. And I'm a huge nerd, right? So I love Batman, I love Marvel, all these things. So when I saw that there was these Batman NFTs and that they were the only one that had the DC IP, I got it right away, right? I was like, this is awesome. And I didn't, and I looked at, the first thing I did is I looked at Omi's white paper, and I was like, this seems brilliant tokenomics to me. And so I think it was February 19th where I actually bought, my first collectible on Veve, invested in Omi. I think before actually I invested in Veve. But I remember at that time, I bought like a Metalio, I bought a Reso. And at that time, the Veve app was so under the radar and no one really knew about it. And there was tons available in the app, like tons of collectibles available, including Resos. And I was like, well, this still seems super under the radar. And like, do I want to spend $70 on a Batman that like no one's really using? And I was like, yeah, like this seems like it could go somewhere. I really like the project. I like what the leadership looks like. I like the tokenomics. And so I invested it back then. So how I found Veve was because of that video from Blockchain Andy, which it to this day has like over 100,000 views. So I know a lot of people found Veve and Omi because of him.
Do you still own that Zilliqa that you got because of him?
Yep, I have it staked, so I'm getting its governance token, which is GZIL.
But staked on a hardware wallet probably, or it's possible with some coins at least. Yeah, I know.
There's different exchanges, or not exchanges, but different wallets that you can hold the token and get that governance token. Yeah.
Yeah. That said, just a quick disclaimer: bring your coins and tokens to safety, because we never know what happens if and the next bad catalyst comes out and the next exchange locks away your assets. So it's better to have them on the ledger. There are a lot of great content creators out that have shown how it's done. Forster, for example, has a great video up, and many others as well. Let's do a little bit FUD busting here, because we have Jim Ran here in the channel saying they gave all the YouTubers cash out. They can literally take forever for everyone else. Do you want first?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a few different groups, whether it's on Twitter or on Telegram, and I know plenty of YouTubers who still don't have cash out or are just now gaining access. So, I don't know how people were selected or however it was done, but I know it was randomized, right? So, like, I think about how like this always pops up, right? It's like, oh, you're an influencer or whatever, so you get priority, and like that's not fair. And that's not the case, right? So like there's been several like giveaways and like certain things that people have access that I've been one of the late ones, right? And so I do think it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, okay, cool. Like I was one of the early ones this time. Awesome. But yeah, I still know plenty of YouTubers who don't have access. And I think you just said that you don't have access.
Yep. I'm definitely, if there would be such a thing that giving it to everyone, I wouldn't be on the favorites list. But I highly doubt it, because I know people that don't have YouTube and don't have any following. They got it also here in Germany. They show it in the Telegram groups that are around. And then there are others that don't have it and that have YouTube channels creating content. They get it late. So yes, it would make sense to give it to all the YouTubers, just so they can show how it's done, so people don't make mistakes or can already see how it is. But this unfortunately didn't happen, so I cannot produce a video, and that's fine for me, right?
And to that point, actually, I know someone who is very anti Veve and Omi, and like they were part of our community, and then they're no longer, and because they lost the patience, right? And they have the ability to cash out, and they got it not long after me. And so that shows it's randomized, right? They're very vocal on Twitter about anti Veve, and yet they have the ability to cash out.
Yeah. Energy says, I don't have cash out, but I also don't care. That's the right spirit, I think. Yeah, we got another super chat from Lens. Thank you very much for the kind donation. And he actually asked a very good question here. If the rumored hedge fund comes in, do you think they'll target the top grails, Waltz, by the SRMC1, SR. So Marvel Comics #1 or Spider-Man Secret Rare, hold them also. I'm hopeful. Yeah. So for congratulations to that collection. Walt, Spider-Man SR, and Marvel #1 SR is, I think, below 1% collection. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think they'll target grails for holding. I don't know if like it for me, like if I had this massive hedge fund, would I go in and scoop up, a massive amount of the supply of like a Spidey Secret Rare? Maybe not, because that's a lot of money to pour in on one collectible versus, oh, I can find something that's, not the most expensive. Or maybe they go after, like you were talking about with comics, or like an ultra rare, right? It has not as much, a lower supply, but it's cheaper, right? It's not that secret rare. And so they could still swoop in at a lower price point on an ultra rare of Spidey or, Marvel Comics #1 and buy up a larger supply of that and then control the market, right? So, but I do think, yeah, like they're going to go after the grails and all that, but maybe not a massive amount of the supply.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that maybe this hedge fund would do it in this way, but I mean, we have commented on the topic earlier in the stream. So if you haven't seen it, Lens, maybe also good to go back later. But right now, this is not an individual in a hedge fund that is sitting there and buy some stuff. They're probably applying a strategy to this. So there will be at least they will put someone in whatever strategy department on it to analyze the best collectibles to purchase with a short-term, mid-term, and long-term outlook, because in the end they have to create value for their shareholders, or for everyone who is taking part in that hedge fund. So my take on this is that probably someone figures out a strategy that goes beyond the value that we are seeing right now. So for example, what if they really calculate, they get some insider info or whatever, they really calculate with that you are able to rent out collectibles? Then you would say, okay, maybe they would just daily buying and accumulating the cars or whatever on the app without you really taking notice how they are scarcer and scarcer, and then say, okay, if people want to play with this, all what is flyable, drivable, animated, we own a big part and we are going to rent that because you will need it, right? So the same strategy that Wales tell us openly about, they will not tell us, but maybe apply. Yeah. So yeah. So there was another, Russ said, I think David has our back as OMI investors. He seems like a guy who will always look out after his holders. I mean, you have talked to David already. I haven't, so probably I cannot comment on it.
He's the nicest dude and very, very humble, which I think is what you want in a leadership, right? So I agree with you. And when you think about it, like they're OMI holders too, they're OMI investors too, right? Like they could just have dumped on us and taken profits when it was really, really high, and they didn't, right? And part of that too is because when you look at David's track record, and Dan's too, but David was already successful before Veve, right? He's had successful businesses. He's even won awards as a businessman in New Zealand. So I think that's something to remember, right? Like Veve was created as a passion project. It was meant to be something that they could make money in, but ultimately they were following their passion, and it blew up into something incredible. So I do agree with you that, David does have our back, but at the end of the day, I also do think everyone has a price for the most part, right? And so at some point they will take profit. I don't think they'll sell all of their OMI, but I do think at this low, it doesn't, like, they've already seen where it can go, and they have an idea of where it could go, but at some point, they will take profits. But at this stage, yeah, they have our back, and they're going to try to make all of us successful with them.
Yeah. And also, I mean, if they are creating value for us and bring our portfolios 10, 20, 100x, then so be it. Let them take profits. It would be absolutely justified for them also to take money. It's always this argument, like someone took profits and even your portfolio is up a couple thousand%, but you want to take profit, but the founders of the project shouldn't. It would be it would be crazy for me to demand that.
Yep.
But originally, speaking of the journey, so you've explained how you found Omi, how you followed this crypto channel, that Silica investment channel. What made you start YouTube? Did you start after Veve or before Veve already?
So I'll answer, I guess, why I started first. So I guess back in 2018, like I didn't grow up understanding about investments. I didn't come from money or anything like that. So, when I was younger, I just kind of, did what I did and didn't invest and spent money on, whatever, and just kind of made sure that, I was okay and getting by. And then I started, doing a little bit better and making money and like, moving up in jobs and all that. And I was speaking with one of my best friends, and he was like, what are you saving for? I said, I'm saving up for like property and things like that. He's like, well, in the interim, like, what are you doing with that money? It's like, just saving it in a savings account. And he's like, well, you're losing to inflation, right? Like, why aren't you investing it? And I was like, I don't know how. Like, I didn't learn any of that, right? So I started researching, speaking with people who are way smarter than me, and just making connections and trying to understand, like, absorbing as much information as I could. Like, how do I do this right? How do I learn about investing? And it's been 4 years now, and every single day I'm trying to learn more and more and more that I can. And so 2018, I invested in stocks, I invested in crypto. I didn't have a lot of money, so I started somewhere, and it built fast, right, over what happened over the years. And so I made smart investments, did well, and then I found crypto, and I started this stock group and started kind of talking about investments. That was all, friends and family, and I managed it, I ran it. And I kept talking about crypto, and this was 2021, is 2020 to 2021. I kept talking about crypto, and they're like, bro, we don't care about crypto. And I kept saying, like, you will. So like, I'm trying to help you guys, but I need another outlet because no one wanted to talk to me about it. So I kept talking about YouTube. I was going to create a YouTube channel back in like August of 2020, and I never did. And then I was like, okay, I need an outlet. I need a bigger community. So I was like, I'll just create a YouTube. And so I did like 2 stock videos back in February of 2021. And then I was like, oh, I love NFTs. I love crypto. And so my first crypto video in March of last year was, the top 2 NFT projects. And it was Omi and Engine. And so that was my first video. And at the time, there was very, very few people who had Omi and Veve content. It was, I saw Blockchain Andy who got me into it. But around that time, that's where everything kind of picked up, right? And so I was one of the early ones. Me, Kyle, Cavell, the Gale, like plenty of people who were actually getting into it in March. And that's what kicked all this off. And again, like, I constantly remind myself that I created this channel as an outlet and to build a community, and I got that. And so while I wanted to be successful, I always remind myself that I didn't create it with the intention of it being successful. I just needed a community and outlet, and that's what I got. And so for whether it goes up to 100,000 subscribers or it stays where it's at, I'm happy with what it is.
Yeah, very impressive, because I think right now you are the biggest Ecomi Veve content creator in the space. I think I cannot recall that there's anyone who is as close to the 20K mark as you are right now. I think the next one would be Veve Vault, but it's impressive to see, because I mean, from the outside it looks like such a small niche, right? To decide to make Ecomi and Veve content, and I can share openly with everyone here in the space and with you as well that ultimately this how the way that you made your videos and made me thinking about doing YouTube videos. But I didn't even know that I would do it maybe for Ecomi, Veve, or whatever else. But I was like, man, this seems like a lot of fun. So I was so Cryptos R Us said, one time in his stream, I recommend to everyone starting a YouTube channel. And then I was already thinking about it. Then I started watching you like every day in the morning since I bought my first Omi and some Veve collectibles later on. I was watching videos from you and from Cavell. Like I was doing coffee and okay, TapsTrades, does he have new videos? Okay, watch the videos. And then after a while, I started explaining to 2 interested people in the company everything about VeChain, how it works, lockup, gas production, why you need it, why it's so important, because I also work in this industry. So VeChain was important and easier to understand. And then I told them about Ecomi and Veve when I was personally convinced. And then like the people said, make videos, like make YouTube. And I was already thinking about it. So I just gave it a shot. And as you said, I didn't care if it works or not. I just wanted to see what happens if I do it. And now that I get to talk with so many people from the community, I don't want to stop.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I like that there's so many different channels, right? Because everyone has different input, everyone thinks differently, and there's so many different sides to this project that we need that many creators, right? And everyone has like sub communities, and I completely agree. Like, and I think, you know, like you look at Cavell and Vevevol and Johnny Dunn, like all these people who put out like daily content, like they're going to pass me. And I'm happy for that, because I don't want the top spot. I just do my content the way that I do my content and love the people who join the community. And I think it's great that there's so many different types of channels, right? There's Veve collectible centric, there's comic centric, there's, you know, different way that people approach and think about Omi. There's hybrids of all of it. So I think it's pretty incredible to see how many creators we have now. And I love all the different inputs, and I watch a ton of different people's content still to this day, especially since I don't have the time to put out daily content. And for the people who can do this full time, I'm envious. I'm envious that they have the ability to do this full time, because I would love to do this full time, but unfortunately I don't have the ability to do it yet. And one day, hopefully I will. But yeah, I think it's great that we have so many people who can cover these things, because I'll have an idea for a video or something will happen and be like, that would be great to do a video on, but I don't have the time. But I know the community and the other content creators will, so they'll get that information out there, and everyone will become, you know, smarter and better for it.
I think that might be actually you being okay with people passing you might be the reason why, or at least your way of getting relaxed onto those videos might be why you will float on top for a while still. But just a thought. Obviously, Cavell, Vevevol, the others, they are hardworking. I see, for example, one channel that impresses me so much is Veve in 3. Because he's like with all the stuff, like I think he has two children. He was moving, and he still pumped out the videos to inform people about the drops with all the different things or research into the stuff. So it's complete, as you said, it's incredible what we have in the space. If you head over to Twitter, there's constantly 1 or 2 spaces open where people do Veve and chill. Or something like that. So you can always go somewhere 24/7 to talk about Ecomi and Veve in a bear market. That's crazy.
And then even on Twitter Spaces, right? I hop in Twitter Spaces when I can, and there are so many great conversations that happen. And like you have people from Veve who hop in those spaces too. And most of those conversations are never recorded. So you either get the alpha or you don't. And it's great to hop in those spaces because they're talking about Veve, they're talking about Omi, but they're also talking about other projects that the community is getting into. So I love when I can hop in those spaces, because you just get so many strong conversations that are off record, right? Like you're either there or you're not. So yeah. Everyone does their way on what they cover. And it's great to see just so many people in this community who are contributing. And even if you're not contributing, like if you're here in the audience and you're not a content creator, you're still contributing, right? You're still having conversations, you're still being a part of it. And there's just so many ways to do that, you know, you don't have to be a YouTube creator. There's other outlets, and just supporting us and being a part of it. That's really, really important, right? We're in a bear market, everything's down, and you're still here. And that's what matters the most.
Exactly. And I think it's also for many people, as you can see, sorry, this was the other one here. It's good to see people still have faith in the project. I think there are a lot of people out there I know that are not on Twitter and that are not in these chat rooms, and they kind of when they look at it, they feel that everything has gone away because they cannot see the constant noise of a raging bull market anymore. So I think it's really good, or it's the most important time to go over the content right now when it's not so visible anymore as it was before, when the bitboys and crypto R's have not talked about it as much anymore because they are focusing on BTC and ETH and XRP and Cardano. But I think if this project just goes 10% to what you said, what I said here, I think we did as a community, everyone a great service in just putting the knowledge content out there. Yeah.
Yep.
And for your information, just one thing to add. This is something that you cannot even see, but when I put out the tweet for our stream, I then afterwards went to the Telegram group of Veve Germany. There's a Telegram group where also Dr. Profit is in because he's German. And I wanted to post the video, but someone had already shared it. So someone had already said, HODLER and TapsTrades are talking. So this is something besides what we see. There are WhatsApp chat groups where knowledge is spreading. So it's impressive to see. Yeah.
And just a heads up, I've got about 5 more minutes just because I have another meeting I need to prepare for.
Yeah, it's perfect. I was actually rounding it up here as well. So you have to go in 5 minutes. For you, the day starts. You have to head to work, or do you do home office? How is it going?
Home office, but yeah, have a lot of work. It's I work from home, which is nice. I go in the office at very, very occasionally, but yeah, it's about time to get back to it soon here.
Yeah. I said in the beginning that I would ask about the whole telescope thing. We didn't cover that anymore. Maybe you can just say in two sentences or so what you are doing with telescope, if you want to share.
Yeah. So I followed the project, saw what Kirk was doing, and seeing like more and more about it. And I was asking them, if I can work with you guys. And for a while, they kind of, weren't really engaging with me much on it. But then eventually, we're like, okay, he's passionate about it. He understands it. And so they brought me on as a strategic advisor. So essentially, my connection to them is helping them with the token release, right? So actually helping them on how to launch a token. We'll go through the private and pre-sale side, the public launch and all that. But there's a lot that goes into token creation and making sure that it's going to be valuable for investors. And and outside of that, little things here and there, kind of on different ways that the company can go. But mostly my focus is tied to what will be the Telescope token.
Yeah, that's amazing. And probably that's something where you can provide us with unique insights and how these things work in the future. So I think with that, to see where you're heading off to all this stuff besides the YouTube channel, I think that's a good moment to close this. So thank you again very much for coming onto my channel, talking here with me about our favorite project. And yes, have a great work day. And for everyone that was in the chat, if we didn't answer your question, I'm sorry. It was a lot. I'm not used to so many people flooding the chat. So I'm sorry if we didn't go into the questions. Thank you for all donation support, all the good comments, interaction. And as I always say, wherever you are on the world, have yourselves a great morning, evening, day, night, or afternoon. And see you in the next video or live stream.
Thanks for having me.